Hi, welcome to part 2 of Pauline Interviews, my interview with Mark Lesniewski, and we're talking about near-death experience. Now, in part 1, I explained there are several different kinds of near-death experience, and we're talking about the one where your consciousness leaves your body and you experience all these different things out of body. And where we're leaving off is Mark had a young life of kind of partying, and he was trying to find himself. And he said he was now moving. Well, I'll let him tell you what happened. So Mark, just to catch people up, you were telling me that in your youth, you had kind of a wild youth, and almost like you were kind of tortured a little bit. It sounded like tormented. Tell us just a little bit briefly about what we talked about in the first part about the torment, and then your next step moving to California.
Yeah, I guess the torment, if you could put yourself in the body of a fish that's out of water.
Ouch.
Yeah, I felt, looking back again, I felt like a fish out of water. Now, I was doing all sorts of things, partying and whatnot, to get me, to distract me from my inner life. The inner life was calling me, but the inner life was dying of thirst and drying up.
Sounds like you weren't ready to hear it, but you knew it was there.
Yes.
So now we're up to speed here where you're in California. A friend invited you to go to California. You're in Bakersfield, California. You said it was very dark. And then you go to your bedroom and you go to bed, and that's when this event happened. Right.
So it was just before sunset, and it felt like an incredible wrestling match. I mean, it was...
You were out of your body now.
I was out of my body, and this was going on in the spirit realm.
Yes, and you weren't. You didn't get out of your body because of an accident, or you weren't dying. Nope. You just came out of your body.
It just happened spontaneously. Yeah, I certainly wasn't prepared or doing anything to prepare for something like this, or doing something dangerous that would, bring me close to death like what I was doing before. And so in this wrestling match, it seemed like it was over possession of my soul, and I wasn't sure, what to do here, because both seemed dangerous. When God takes possession of your soul, that's going to change your life drastically. And I wanted change, yeah, but how much do I want?
Change can be fearful.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I hate to interrupt you, but how do you know this wasn't a dream? Since you don't have the doctors there saying that your heart stopped. Well, you weren't dying, so that doesn't count. But how do you know it was not a dream?
Yeah, it was more real than real. And dreams typically aren't more real than real.
They're weird.
Another kind of thing. And I did... 10 years after this, I did have a series of, I went to see a local dream researcher here because I was having these odd dreams, and she made the distinction between an event and a dream, and you know the difference in the feeling tone of it.
I know what you're talking
Like
about.
when you get a visitation from a dead relative or some sort of spirit animal guide or whatever, it's different.
It's too real to be a dream.
It's too real to be real, and this was the most real and beyond real thing that I have ever experienced.
What else was happening besides the fight over your soul? What else happened?
That's all that I could really make out, but I did have this sense, and I don't know if, my traditional consciousness interpreted God versus Satan, and then I'm somewhere in the middle and not sure where to go. But that was about it. And then all of a sudden, spirit went back into the body. I shot bolt upright in bed. I was in a cold sweat and exhausted, like I had truly been through a wrestling match. On the deepest levels of my being, every level of my being was affected by this.
How so?
Well, the cold sweat was a part of it.
Physical part?
Yeah, and we'll get in a moment here, yeah. So then I got up and I looked out the window, and there was enough light to see my surroundings. And just as I got up and walked out there, the sun was coming up from behind the Tehachapi Mountains.
Beautiful.
So again, metaphors and all this other thing going on, nature going along with
what happened?
Supernature and what happened, and it's coming up. And I could see this incredible light streaming through the window. And at first I was like, California, it's California sunshine, you know, and that's what this light is coming through. But it didn't go away. And before long I could look around and go, something's different here. And from that point, for the next about 3 years, I could see this incredible light in everything and everybody. It wasn't 24/7.
When you see light in people, would you see their aura, or how did you see
I didn't see auras. It was, you know, almost like these lights here, but more so. It was like a light that I had never seen before. It wasn't colors. I didn't see auras, but everything was soaked with it. Everything is...
You actually saw it rather than experience it, because I feel people's energy, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
Well, not usually.
I saw it. And it would wax and wane, and it wouldn't keep me up at night. But I remember one time when I used this as an example of every single atom and molecule being light, just what the physicists are telling us and what mystics have been telling us forever. I'm walking down the sidewalk, and there's a Three Musketeers wrapper on the ground, and even that
Had light.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your near-death experience, because you didn't have the traditional one. You didn't go through a tunnel. You didn't see anybody, any loved ones. This was kind of, I'm glad I'm interviewing you, because this is like the most unusual, because I've done near-death experience interviews before, but this is like one of the most unusual one ever. It was just a fight over your soul, over your, you know, who you are. But that's scary, because do you think that had anything to do with you being raised Catholic, believing in a devil, and you know, well, most of us who are spiritual believe in a supreme being, but not everybody believes in a devil, maybe evil energy. Do you think you interpret it as a devil because of your upbringing, or?
Well, again, putting that into words that I only understood at the time. I didn't have a broader based language for this kind of stuff. So I can tell this story to so many people from so many different backgrounds, and if they want to put different words in there, that's fine to me. Again, it was more real than real, and so what I call it doesn't matter so much.
It's how you feel.
It's how I feel about it,
And when you were there, did you make a decision? Because you said you came back into your body, but it didn't sound like you were going to go with God or the devil. It didn't sound like you made a decision.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would say, well, first of all, when I got back into my body and saw this light, when I had a little time to think about that out-of-body experience, the notion was that God won, I lost, therefore I won.
Now, how did you lose?
I think, I don't know that there was a point where I came to some surrender, but it was...
Okay, it was a surrender, so that's how you feel you lost.
Yeah, it's an irresistible force.
Yeah.
And what I say is that I teach stuff about mysticism and engaged mysticism here, and when you look at the lives of a lot of the mystics, it's a matter of, you get drafted, you don't volunteer.
Really?
I was drafted. This was not something that I said, you know, I'm going to give up my life to you and that kind of thing. I was drafted. Thank God I was.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're lucky you were drafted, because it sounded like you're going down the wrong path.
Oh, hell yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that was the case. I was nabbed, I was drafted, and you know, I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, you got lucky, because I could see other people, and you read about people that, you know, are going down the wrong path, and they wind up killing people or dying, or so you were special. Maybe from previous lifetimes, you just needed to wake up to know that you were used to be, you know, did good things in other lifetimes, and it was still in you.
I'm certainly open to that possibility, and I realized after, you know, at some point I started reading about near-death experiences, probably 10, 15 years after this happened. And yeah, I didn't see the classic light during the experience, But after the experience, I saw that light
That's interesting.
in everything and everybody for approximately 3 years, again, waxing and waning. And I knew instinctively what you read about these days is that light and love are the same. You can toss in whatever word you want, that light is about one love.
No, that you said that because I know when people have had a near-death experience, the kind I think of, where they go into the light and they say there's, like the person I interviewed most recently, she said she felt like she was surrounded by, she said, I can't describe it like love. She said, I can remember, having children and holding them. That's the kind of, it's indescribable. So did you feel that love while you were seeing this light consciously when you came back?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you felt it. That's interesting because people usually feel it when their consciousness is out of their body. But you came back and you felt it when your consciousness was in your body. Whoa, you had quite a different kind of near-death experience. And this was back in the 80s, you said?
Early 80s.
So in those days, I got to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, in this country that was kind of not talked about, but other countries like India, maybe China, I don't know, I'm naming countries I'm not sure, but I know in other countries, I think it'd be more accepted, wouldn't it? Because I know reincarnation is more accepted in other countries. I mean, it seems to be more spiritually enlightened in the older countries, maybe because we haven't been around that long and developed. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, what I pick up, and this is changing fortunately, was a lot happened with the dawning of the age of enlightenment, where you had to measure it. You had to be able to measure it to say it was real. And so this is when mysticism went underground. So it was, it had to be concrete and provable, and if it wasn't, then it just wasn't real.
Do you think the study of quantum physics has really helped spirituality?
Oh, big time.
Because science and spirituality are coming together now.
Big time.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and we see here as spiritual directors and retreat leaders that this opening up, you mentioned being open-minded and open spirit, it's happening big time. And, you hear how in times of darkness, this is when the bright lights
And we want to talk about that. We're going to do part 3, I think, because this is very interesting. So just briefly, and then we'll talk about it some more. How did this change your life with relationship to your family and your friends? And then we'll get more into that in part 3. But just briefly, how did that change your relationships?
Well, it was really hard. And one of the signs of that was going all the way out to California, again, metaphorically, that's the edge of our continent.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that.
I had to get as far away, and with 12-step groups, they talk about you've got to stay away from the old people, places, and things. And so this was a way of doing that. I wasn't couching it in 12-step terms.
Right.
But I had to go. And so that meant leaving loved ones and everything I knew and thought I was going to be enmeshed in forever. So I had to go.
Was your family okay with this? Because the way you were living your life, they might have been afraid to let you go.
Well, they were both supportive and sad.
Nice. And you, at this point, you had your Bachelor of Arts.
Right.
And did you earn your Master's of Arts when you were in California?
No, I just finished that in my 50s.
Oh, wow, good for you.
Yeah, I got the master's degree at Europa University and graduated in 2013.
So we're saying that your family supported you. It didn't sound like people thought you were crazy, or even though it was during the 80s, you didn't talk too much about it. You just moved on with your life, it sounds like.
Well, I got somewhat hyper-religious at first.
Religious or spiritual?
Well,
I think religious people can be spiritual too.
Right.
But generally, when you say I'm just spiritual, you don't affiliate with any particular religion. Not that it's bad or wrong. It's just the way you want to.
It was both and from where I come from, that discussion of I'm spiritual but not religion hadn't started really.
Okay.
It was before I started hearing
What do you think about 90s or?
Could be. I wasn't, Bakersfield isn't known as the liberal center of the state of California. So.
Oh, really? We're
yeah.
Berkeley, maybe.
Berkeley, maybe. Yeah, the Bay Area, typically. But no, that wasn't the case. And so, one of the things that the literature talks about, Ken Wilber talks about this, is that at first, when there's a spiritual experience, a powerful spiritual experience for a person, call it conversion experience, born again experience, whatever you want to call it, it's elitist. And so it changes the individual, and this is for me. I needed to hear that message about me at the time, that I'm the light of the world. So then, a year later, I see this light, and it's in everything and everybody. So now it becomes egalitarian. This isn't just about me.
Right.
This is my message to give to you.
Yes.
I have seen this light, and you are the light of the world. And scripturally, in the Gospels, in one place, Jesus says to the crowd, you are the light of the world. In another place, he says, I'm the light of the world. So you see the non-dual is being treated there. So that's what happens. At first, it starts off, this is for me. And truly, if I didn't hear that message, I don't think I'd be doing this interview today.
Well, I'm glad you did hear the message, and we're gonna wrap this up and do a part 3 where we're gonna talk about how you went from this point to this point here, being the Franciscan Spiritual Center, maybe some stuff in between, I don't know. So thank you, Mark, and we will come back. Thanks for watching another edition of Pauline Interviews, and please stay with us. We've got an interesting part 3 with Mark on his near-death experience and how it completely changed his life for his betterment, and it's going to sound like for everybody who he comes in touch with. Thanks for watching.